Good morning, everyone. This is Steve Crosby. Welcome to this edition of Monday Morning Musing, where we are continuing on the series that we've been doing regarding myths, lies, and half-truths that you've been told about Protestantism and the Reformation. We have 3 more episodes we're going to do on this and then wrap this series up. It's such an unending field of opportunity that we could go on forever, and this has already been long enough. On this episode, I want to talk to you about the myth that the church, particularly the medieval church or the Catholic Church, was opposed to education or science. And the story goes like this. They were a bunch of mystical, superstitious book burners who were suppressing learning and were against science and against knowledge. And again, the Reformation and the Renaissance comes along and saves us from the horrible Catholic Church. First of all, book burning. Never a good idea. Never a good look, okay? I'm not justifying book burning. But it is important to note that the church never burned a science book. They burned what they believed to be heretical theological books. That's an important distinction. The church, and the medieval church, as I've said in earlier episodes, were responsible for many of the universities of the period. They were not anti-learning. Because they believed God was a rational God, that rational God could be understood and understood through nature. They were empiricists, otherwise they believed that an intellectual claim should be put to the test and it could be proven by observable results. And of all the scientists and mathematicians of that period, approximately 60% of them were very faithful attenders of a Catholic church. Another 30% of them were about, favorably disposed to the Catholic Church. And then there was a very small percentage who were full-on skeptics and opposed to the church in all its forms. Now, here's a few episodes that you probably heard and probably been told something like this. The church was anti-medicine. Well, when they developed the smallpox vaccine, Pope Leo was against it, and he considered smallpox a judgment from God, and he forbade anybody to get a smallpox vaccine. Complete lie. Utter fabrication. Never happened. He never prohibited it, and he encouraged it. That's an example of one of the anti-Catholic myths that float around very commonly. The other one is, and this is the biggest one, because this is in books and movies, and that is, when Galileo suggested that the universe was heliocentric, otherwise that the sun was at the center of the universe. The horrible Roman Church came down on him with a hammer and threw him in jail and tortured him, and it was against Galileo and was against Copernicus. Guess what? It never happened. Galileo never spent a day in jail. Do you know where that story came from? Voltaire. That's right. A rabid God-hater of the Renaissance. And you've been told, some of you who are listening to me, you were told Galileo was sent to jail. You can see it in history books. There's pictures of it. It never happened. And the idea that the universe or our solar system was heliocentric had been around for centuries. Aristarchus taught that the universe was heliocentric around 250, 300 BC. So the idea that everybody believed the earth was, at the center of the universe, or that the earth was flat, was the universal standard, and the church suppressed that knowledge, is nonsense. It's historical nonsense. It's bad history. It's lies. It's mythology. Now, were there different opinions? Of course there were. But Galileo and Copernicus were not the first to come up with the idea of a solar system with the sun at the center. We are talking 400 years before Christ, 300 years before Christ. There were people who believed the universe was heliocentric. You can't blame bad science on the church. The church didn't, form a committee to stop the 400-year-old belief systems. It just never caught on. It never caught on. At around 500 BC, Heraclitus taught that the earth was a sphere that rotated, roughly 500 BC. Again, Copernicus, Galileo, not the first to come up with those kind of thoughts. First white Europeans. Now we're getting to the first in our universe of significance, which is the only universe of significance. After all, everything great came out of Europe, not North Africa, or Greece, or the Mediterranean. So, all those myths about the church being anti-science are simply that. Did the medieval church have superstitious beliefs? Yes, they did. It was a mixed bag. And when you distort the whole story for polemical, argumentative advantage against people with whom you disagree with, you cannot claim fidelity, faithfulness, or integrity or honesty before Jesus Christ. Tell the whole story. Galileo never spent a day in jail, and the Pope never put him there. Protestant lies. See you next time.